Very good spot. Well, everyone is a part of me. No. We got 3 minutes. We don't really have 3 minutes. I'm just kidding. So hi, everybody. Oh, we have a mic. So I'm Tim Skirvin. I'm Robert Skirvin's son. He's the other one. He's taller than me. Thanks for everybody for being here. As everybody probably knows, we lost him back in August. We were there with him. I don't really want to talk too much about that bit. The fun bits we had with him and tell stories, because that's kind of been the point of the exercise with Dad for his entire life. I've been telling stories. Anybody that knows me has heard every story I've got about my family, especially things like how bad my grandmother's cooking was, his mother, and Grandpa Bob's boxes of crap. And we don't have quite those aren't the same stories that we tell about Dad all the time. But that's the kind of stuff I learned from Dad. The point of the exercise is the point of any exercise like this, the point of any living is to have the stories available to tell about the people that you care about, and the people that have changed you, and the people that are still around for you for all this time. And he taught this, obviously. That was the point of his being a teacher, was to tell you these stories, telling stories about how you're supposed to eat the right apples. I do think it's important that everybody here, by showing up, is not going to eat any more red delicious apples. But even past that, for me, I got all the stories I got. That he was also pretty much my best friend. He was, from the time I was young, he was the one that was always hanging out with me in all the various situations we could do. We spent so much time together, especially garage selling, wandering around to every stupid sale we could find, trying dumb foods. The official record for worst food we had was canned kiwi fruit. In New Zealand, it was
not canned kiwis.
Not canned kiwi. That might be an important story that we'll say because of his dad here. Kiwi fruits are people. I mean, kiwis are people. Kiwi fruits are not people. You're allowed to eat kiwi fruits. You're not allowed to eat kiwis. He messed this up in New Zealand because those are the kiwis. And his first lecture there, and completely lost the audience in his first major lecture. It was a problem. Yes, kiwis are cute. Kiwi birds are also cute, and you also shouldn't eat those because they're endangered. But we went to grocery stores together. There was a lot of it. We tried foods. Or if you have not been at Jungle Jim's, that was Dad's favorite grocery store, and it should be yours too. It's in Cincinnati, so it's far away. You didn't like. That's right. My nieces did not like Jungle Jim's. It was terrible. It was okay. All right. And that's how conversations oftentimes went. Anyway, for me, Dad was part of my life from when I was born until he died. There was never a time when he wasn't really around. The biggest piece that kind of tells the story is when I went to college. I went to college here, and I lived in Allen Hall. Allen Hall is across the street from the building he worked in. But when he dropped me off at the dorm with all my stuff, my books, my clothes, all that kind of stuff, we brought it up, we moved in, we packed, brought it out, and he went home and he went down to the basement because he knew I wasn't going to be there anymore, and he cried because I was gone. And then I walked in because I needed a hammer and a lamp. So I just came, and he grabbed me a hammer and a lamp, and he packed me up and drove me and my roommate back to the dorm, and realized that this wasn't really a me being gone kind of thing. I would drop my laundry off in his car. Forever. He would fold it and bring it back and check it into the dorm. That was just how life was with him most of the time. I've lost my notes. Hold on. Thank you. When I was in California, I didn't really get to talk to him because he didn't do telephones, but he'd visit instead. And I talked to Mom instead. It's not like I didn't stay in contact with him, but that was really the only major communication method that didn't work with him. Phones, not it. He would send me mail. He would send all of us mail. I usually would get 1 or 2 postcards a week with more postage than strictly necessary, and big boxes full of stamps that he wouldn't actually know what to do with. And I've still got a lot of the packaging. And he did that to everybody. That was just part of what life was.
Who got a box covered in stamps from my dad?
That's how he operated. The post office just trusted him. So when we started having grandkids for him, they're all up here. That's where we got to see how he had treated us, because Danny and I had no possibility of not acting that way, not treating them like these are the points of our lives, and that we can do all these things with them and laugh with them, and jokes and sing songs in the shower and all this kind of stuff. This is what we learned from Dad. When he was, in the last few years, when he was dying, we knew that this was happening, but we didn't want to share too much with the kids because, well, we didn't want to do that. It just didn't seem very helpful. And one time I had Trogdora, sorry, I can't not call her Trogdora. Probably nobody else in this room does, but she's also Gabby, I guess. It's okay. We were out with some friends, and I was telling my other friends about how Dad was doing, which wasn't all that good. And I don't think that we had the full explanation. And so I had Trogdora and I had Robert. If I mentioned he's named after Dad, I'm sure. Anyway, I had to sit them down together afterwards once I realized that I'd said too much, and I had really shared it, and explain that Grandpa was still there. Grandpa was falling. We were going to run out of Grandpa, but he was still a part of their lives. I told stories about Grandma, the bad cooking. I told stories about Grandpa Bob and the boxes of crap. And I told just any lesson that they have from other relatives that they know that they could tell by heart. And I explained, this is this way we remember our family. This is the way we remember the people we care about. And I'm not going to have Grandpa forever. And that's okay, because we're going to have the stories of Grandpa forever. We're going to be telling these stories. You're going to be telling them. People tell stories. They like the story of the box of crap, it turns out. So I'm here asking you to come up and tell some stories about Dad, so that I know more of him and so that you know more of him. And that's why we're here today.
So my thought was, I'll say something too.
Yeah,
But
we're gonna be recorded.
oh, jeez. All right.
We're live streaming this. Some people are watching it live, some people will watch the recording.
Yep, you can watch it again later, over and over again. Have it on repeat in your house. I'm Danny. I think I know most people here. Hey, Mary, I didn't see you sneak in. So my thought was that, anyone who wants to speak, you can. We definitely don't want to put pressure on anybody. The fact that you guys are here is extremely meaningful for all of us, and I'm sure my dad would appreciate that. But if someone would like to speak, we're trying to limit to 5 minutes because I know it's going to be, it could be a lot of people. My thought was maybe we come up and just if somebody wants to come up and sit on the couch, and we can just kind of rather than just filling time. So if anyone does, we're welcome to do that. Gabby, do you want to do your thing? Do you want to?
Do you want to do it?
Do you want to wait a minute? All right, Gabby wrote a poem, but she'll read that later. All right, yeah. So Billy, you can come in. Yeah, man, do your thing.
Oh, this is always hard. I met Dr. Skirvin around 1997. I was going through a research apprentice program at the University of Illinois, and I met Margaret, his assistant, in the 258. And she's a big part of Skirvin also. You had two Margies. Because Skirvin was hate to say it's a cliche word, but like bigger than life. Like you just have to really know him. But he's had a couple scares with that in his lifetime. I guess he swallowed a pencil eraser one time. Like certain things like that. But like he always was about the student. He was always about life, and I came from a foster home, and I didn't know anybody here, and they extended our home, because there was one time I was homeless, had nowhere to go, and they were like, yeah, you can stay with us until you get on your feet, and I will always be there for the Skirvin family, because he was like that with a lot of students, finding couches on the side of the road and bicycles, and and grad students would leave, or they'll go to a university and they're like, hey, Skirvin, I have nowhere to store my stuff, and like they had a 2-car garage, but it was full of stuff. It was other people's bikes that's been there for like 10 years and 20 years, and a lot of students they just never returned, but he would donate his space, his home, to anybody. He was open source to everybody. If you needed to learn anything and he didn't know the answer to it, he's like, I'll find an answer for you, Billy. And Margie, and both Margarets, sorry, it's hard, but you were always open to help. And in today's world, I feel like it's good to know, like, there's a lot of crazy things going on in the world, but it's amazing to know that we still have this people like the Skirvin family to make the world a better place. And my experience of living in the Skirvin house, I snuck into Tim's room and I snuck into Danny's room, and I was jealous. Like, they had books just from floor to ceiling, and you had Starry Night on the ceiling, and it was just like whatever imagination that you guys got to experience, like as a kid, you were able to incubate that, and from the bottom of my heart, like I think I need to up my reading game, and my Star Wars game, like these are like, this type of stuff makes heroes. So Danny and Tim, you both are heroes of how you incubated in the great home with Margie and Skirvin, and I said, my heart, and if there's anything I could do for you and your families at any time, just give me a call. I love you from the bottom of my heart. So thank you. You gotta have hugs in the Skirvin family.
Yeah. There's never be enough.
It's true. Never enough hugs. My dad was definitely a hugger. So I'll go. So my dad, I call him Dad, but for a lot of you guys, Dr. Bob, Dr. Skirvin, Professor Skirvin, Uncle Bob. You guys, there you go. I don't think I've met anybody in life that really impacted so many people. I was telling some people while I've been here, it's kind of shocking to me actually how many lives my dad's touched. Think about just like, he taught for 40 years. At the end, he was having 200 plus students a semester. Thousands and thousands of people have interacted with my dad. And he's told him some goofy story or showed him a picture of me in a tuxedo next to a tree, or, it's amazing. And that tree, like I think about, like, he took pictures of me next to that tree from the time I was, yeah, I mean, barely able to stand, up through when I was graduating veterinary school. And just the forethought that he had of like, I'm gonna take this picture now, and in 15 years, we'll see what the tree looks like compared to my son growing. It's just kind of like, really? Like that's how dedicated he was, that he put everything to helping people understand ideas better and improving. And it's shocking. He also looked into heterohelix. Like everywhere we went, anywhere, English ivy is his plant. I've never seen anybody so excited about stupid English ivy, because he would be like, look, it's mature heterohelix. And it's like, I don't give a shit, Dad. But he loved it. He just loved it.
On Alcatraz.
Yeah, it was in Alcatraz. It was everywhere. It's a very popular plant, apparently. But so I think about that, just, again, how many lives he's touched. And I think that's evidenced by all the people that are here, we have family and we have friends and we have students and we have just like, colleagues, but the level of people that, again, he's impacted blows me away. And so just the fact that everyone's here, again, I truly from the bottom of my heart appreciate it. And so I think about, some of the advice that, my dad's given a lot of advice to people. We were talking about how you tell people to talk about tomatoes and the Supreme Court, and it's a good way to get a job. He had interesting concepts of things. But I remember when I was little, one time he told me, I said some joke. He said, Danny, sometimes you have to tell jokes just for yourself. And I was like 6, and I'm like, okay. And like one day when I was 9, I was thinking about that. And I'm like, does my dad think I'm really lame? Like, it's just huh? And so I'm like, well, whatever. Anyway, then like, I don't know, probably 15 years later, I was thinking about that, and I realized that like, that's the way my dad's run his life. Of just, he wants to entertain. He loves to tell people fun stories and to, make them think about things. Just think outside their box, right? He loves that. He that was so important to him, and that's what he's saying to me, is that just like, he's going to say these ridiculous things and tell these ridiculous stories, and he's saying it for himself because he knows it's important. But if it impacts people otherwise, that's great too, and just it's actually pretty good advice. But everything he did, like it wasn't just for other people. He delighted in it. Everything made him happy. Every little bit of stuff was just incredible. And now what I think about is that even though he's gone, there's still people in this room that are giving my dad's lectures. It's like that stuff's still around. I don't know where Lance is. There you go. Lance is a lawyer, not really related to horticulture. He gave an apple lecture to some people recently. But yeah, Boy Scout trip. I mean, just like, but that's just one thing. You think about like just how many ways my dad's legacy lives on. When I was practicing medicine in Arizona, I had a couple clients who were like, "Oh my God, are you related to Bob Skirvin?" Just like it's like actually yes. And the first time I met my now wife, that's what she said to me. She's like, "Oh my God, you're Dr. Skirvin's son. That's amazing." And I was like, yeah, I'm a person. It's nice to meet you. And so, and then ironically, she's Dr. Skirvin now too. And actually, that was one of my theories, is that my dad was Dr. Skirvin. I graduated, became Dr. Skirvin. And I married Celeste, and she became Dr. Skirvin. And Tim married Rebecca, became Dr. Skirvin. So it went from me to, Dad and then me, I went to 1 to 2. We went from 2 to 4. And I had this theory that we're going to be just inundated with Dr. Skirvin. It's like, just like, it hasn't quite turned out.
Sounds like a better Congress to me.
The Congress of Skirvins. But so one thing I wanted that I think is really interesting is my dad's history. And I don't know how many people know about where he came from. But he grew up out in the sticks in California, like way out in the desert. His brother was telling me that their mother would just take the 3 of them out, dump them in the desert in the morning, and then come back and get them like 5 in the afternoon without drinking water, and just like, hydration be damned. But they just go out and pick up snakes and do all this crazy stuff. And it's for hours in the middle of nowhere. And he told me that was his plan, actually, was to be a hermit. He wanted to live out in the desert by himself in a hut somewhere and just not deal with people. Yeah, he blew it. And so then when he was growing up a little more, he was in high school, and he heard about college. He didn't know what it was, but he decided he wanted to do it. And his high school counselor told him, there's no way. You have no chance of getting college. Don't even try. It's a complete waste of time, which pissed him off. And so he actually went to Oral Roberts University because it was just opening up and they were basically accepting anybody. And so he went, and he went to a year and a half-ish, and he decided that Oral Roberts was kind of a little fanatical. So he actually led a walkout of students from the university. And a lot of them, it was like a quarter of the student population walked out. And he's like, yeah, I did it. And then he's like, oh, so now what do I do? Well, damn. And so
He was gonna get drafted.
yeah, it's not sure what to do. And so he talked to one of his professors from Oral Roberts, and he's like, so I don't know what to do here. So the professor said, well, I can get you into Oklahoma State. He's okay. So he went to Oklahoma State for a semester. And at the end of the semester, he decided not to take his finals. He just didn't feel like it. Which is, as we do. So my dad is actually a college dropout, which is wild. And so he went back to that professor at Oral Roberts and said, so what do I do now? He didn't tell him he skipped his finals. But he just didn't go. And so the guy said, he's like, look, I got one more thing I do for you. I know this guy at Southern Illinois University that does horticulture. And my dad said, what's horticulture? And the guy's like, look, do you want to go back to college or not? And that was it. And so my dad went to Southern Illinois University, got his bachelor's and master's, and then went to Purdue and got his PhD. And I feel he didn't know what the hell it was. And so it amazes me that my dad, who was told there's no way he'd go to college, didn't understand what college was, dropped out of college, and then never left college because he stayed there for 40 years teaching. It's amazing, just his path, his dedication. And he told me once, he said that he didn't know where he's going to end up, but he always felt like he should be a teacher. And so, horticulture wasn't necessarily going to be it. He had no idea. But I think it's apparent to everyone here that's what he was meant to be. And so I'm glad he could fulfill that and share. But yeah, it's kind of funny how life turns out. But I think that's all I'm probably going to say. A reasonable pace here. So
So you go.
She's named after Grandpa. No. Sorry, never mind.
Different grandkid.
Yeah, okay.
It's called My Grandpa. A tug at your insides, a heart-wrenching welch, cold and bland with no flavor or smell. You try to hold on, you really, really do, but the silence and holding on are all just too much for you. You finally let go, walk into a new tomorrow, but he is not with you, for he is in the yesterday and you're in the tomorrow. He is gone, and you have to move on. The feelings wash over you, but you're finally being brave and true, so who cares if you still can't help but be blue? The answer is you. You care that you're blue. For you will never forget him or the difference he made, the way that he loved you and all the lives that he changed. You loved him dearly and he felt the same. Yes, I can say that for certain with all our hearts now aflame. He is inside you, helping you grow, helping you prosper, and helping to show that now, even though we feel low, we will be okay with the help of each other. We just have to believe, we just have to trust that he is inside you, inside all of us.
Tough act to follow.
Can you see me? Did I disappear? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Margaret Norton. I was Bob's Margaret at work as opposed to his Margaret at home, and together we managed to pretty much keep him on track, organize it. I came here in 1989 to be his grad student, and had no idea what I was getting into, and really fell on my feet. So I was 5 to be the lab mother, And that's exactly what I became, the lab mother. I kept everything on track, purchased things, made sure everybody had everything they needed, and baked cookies and cheesecakes and remembered birthdays, and essentially did what a mother does. But over the years, I came up with the idea that Bob had certain rules in life. And by rule, I don't mean this is something you have to do. I mean the old-fashioned meaning of rule, which is you have certain principles that are intrinsic to you and they direct your life. And so I wrote down 5 of them. There are a lot more than 5, but I only have 5 minutes. So
One for each minute.
one for each minute. Number 1, 5 rules of Bob. Don't take yourself too seriously. Or to revise that, be willing to make a colossal idiot of yourself if that's what the situation requires to get your point across. And I saw that many times. I was also his teaching assistant when I was a grad student. And he would be up on the platform and he would do anything to get his point across, whether it was stomping across the platform or just doing all kinds of things. So number 1, don't take yourself too seriously. And we didn't. We never did. Number 2, give credit where credit's due. There were many, many, many times I heard him say to another professor, here's this idea, and my student so-and-so came up with this idea. Isn't that great? He didn't take it for himself. He didn't take the credit. There are a lot of people who would say, oh, well, my student came up with this, but I'm the professor, so this is my idea. Never did that. Always give credit where credit's due. And people appreciated that. Number 3, don't believe the stuff others say about you. This is what he told me fairly early on in grad school. He said, Margaret, there are going to be a lot of people who say things like, oh, you're wonderful, you're so brilliant, you're a great student. He said, don't believe them. Do not believe them. And I have actually kept that up over the years. It's a very good rule. Number 4, love your family. He never really said that in so many words, but it was apparent in pretty much any time he mentioned his family. He would say, Tim did this, or Danny did this, or Margie did this, and I'm so proud of them. But he wouldn't just say that to other people, he would say it to them. He would say, Danny, I am so proud of you. And he did that to his students as well. So love your family, and your family can include pretty much anybody you attach to it. Number 5, and I think this is the most important one, people are the most important. It's not the research you do, the papers you publish, it's your students, your friends, the people that you are close to. They're the most important thing. And if you spoil a person to get an award, you've lost. You've just totally lost. Number 6, because we have to have a bonus one, never pass up a good garage sale. When I was first here, it was, I think the first week I was here, I met him in his office and he said, I want to take you out to where the farm is and you'll have your research plots. And so he went out and he got in the old gold Toyota. And the normal way to go out to the Pell farm would have been, okay, I'm going to drive from the Hortfield lab where we started out to Florida, up Race, down Windsor, and there's the farm. So we went down to Florida, over to Race, halfway up Race, and there was a garage sale sign, and he did a 90-degree turn, and we ended up looking at rubber duckies in somebody's front yard. So, yeah, in Bob's memory, go to a garage sale. Thank you.
Good job.
I will note for the record, there was a garage sale sign on the way here. The garage sale was not there. Yes, I checked.
Hey everybody, I'm Ivan. I got the chance to
I was a Dr. Skirvin student in horticulture 30 years after my dad was Dr. Skirvin's student in horticulture. And I'm an ag person, not a math person, but if you say 200 people in a class, 30-year time span, it's like over 6,000 faces that he saw, and he still remembered the name. And on the first day of class, saw me and said, "Hey, are you Ivan Dozier?" So I used to have him in class. And I thought that was really, really special and showed just how much every student meant to Dr. Skirvin. And I also had the opportunity, I was one of his last TAs. And so that's really special. I actually got paid to sit and attend Skirvin lectures, which hopefully someday I'll have some other great jobs, but I don't think I'll ever have a better paying gig than just to sit and do something I would have done for free. So I got that job kind of an afterthought. I was working as a grad student in Turner Hall, and Skirvin was pushing a little cart down the hallway, and he yelled at me, "Hey, Ivan, come over here for a second. I got something I want to talk to you about. You got to try this guava jelly. This is fantastic stuff. You don't try it just straight. You got to try it on one of these little crackers. And hey, by the way, I need a TA. Can you do that next semester?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I would love to do that." So I got to have all these great experiences, and like any understudy, Dr. Skirvin, I could tell lots of stories, and I could tell them for far too long. So the one that I guess I'll share is I got to go to a wine tasting once at Cranard. And that was the very beginning. I knew nothing about wine. I came from a small family farm in Southern Illinois. We were not connoisseurs. My wife can tell you we drink the worst bubbly, fizzy, sweet wine that no connoisseur would touch. So I was really excited about the opportunity to just kind of follow Dr. Skirvin around like a little puppy and just absorb all of the knowledge I could. And I did. We went around to all the little stations, and he was asking these poor Cranard volunteers all these follow-up questions. And they had little index cards that all of their knowledge was confined to this index card, and they were not prepared to answer those questions and give those details. But then he'd just turn around to me and tell me, "The reason I asked that is because," and I'm just soaking it all up. So it was great. I'm like, "I hope you don't mind if I just follow you around all night, because this is my idea of a good time, is to go around with an expert." There's a book out there somewhere. I think it's called like 11 Walks Around the Block with an Expert. Or I'll have to look it up. But the point of it is you could take something as mundane as walking around your block, but you could do it with an expert in various subjects. You could walk around the block with an ornithology expert who could tell you all these things about the birds singing. And you could walk around the block with an architecture expert who could tell you all these things about the different houses and how they were built and their layout. And every time that I had a conversation with Dr. Skirvin, it was like that, where you could look around at the plants, and you could look around at the wines and the chocolates and the apples, and you could learn so much about the little stuff that you see every day. And that was the very beginning of my wine journey. Hopefully that's a path that can continue. But I also like to share that story at the end of the night. You know, we'd been going around for about an hour and sampling a bunch of different wines all day. And he came up to me and said, "Ivan, I need your help. I trust you. I do not know what has happened to my phone. It's a little messed up." And I looked at it, and somehow it had been flipped backwards, like on an axis. I don't know how that happened. And also the language had been changed to Turkish. And I don't know how or why those things happened, but I'm there trying to kind of help decipher it. And I get to his home screen, and I get to he said, "Oh, just click the phone icon. Once you get there, before I go to an event like this, here's a piece of advice." And he was always giving pieces of advice. My final piece of advice for the night: before I go, I call my wife. And that way, if something happens, when this happens, all I have to do is hit one button, redial. She'll come find me, and we'll figure out everything else tomorrow. And so he got it. We hit redial. Margie came in, bailed him out, and as he was making his way out, we had the little wine glasses that we had gotten. He said, "Here, have my wine glass for the night. Give it a good home." And it was like, if any of you have seen that old commercial where the pro football player throws the towel to the little, that was him giving me the wine glass from the night. I said, "Here you go, kid." And I'm shining in the eyes. I kept those wine glasses, and last night I cracked open a bottle of Merlot, because Skirvin really loved Merlot. And I got a bottle for the family too, because I didn't want to be selfish and enjoy it. And so if that'll be the thing I'll leave. I hope everyone If you're going to hit up a garage sale, also have a glass of wine in memory of Dr. Skirvin tonight as well. Thanks.
My name is Shirley Splitstoser. I knew Margie and Bob because my husband Walter worked with Bob at the university. And as you've been hearing, if you worked with Bob, you got to know Bob, as did Walter, very fondly. He generally, I think, called him Skirvin. I don't know. I think Bob may have called Walter Splits. That was another kind of a thing, type of thing. They also both graduated from Purdue, so they had a type of background that they could talk about other than their work. The two articles that I'd like to talk about briefly, both of them show the type of person that Bob was. One of which is this. Now, from the back, it looks like a picture. It's beautifully framed. It is. When Walter and I had our 50th wedding anniversary, we sent out cards, and this is the card that we sent out. And lo and behold, you get nice gifts. But this one I really Bob and Margie, and it says Walt and Shirley, congratulations. Thanks for your help and friendship through most of a lifetime. And it's just one of those thoughtful things to be able to do. And yes, it is beautifully framed. It isn't just the card put there. The other that I'd like to mention is when we had bought just a regular small home in South Urbana, and we looked at the front landscape, there's got to be something here that we can do. Walter says, I'll call Bob, call Skirvin. And he did. I don't know if Margie remembers coming out to the house, but Bob and Margie came out, and Walt and he went out front and drew this and drew that, and the simple little sketches, not the big artistic sketches. The simple sketches, the simple notes. We still have that landscaping out there in front of the house. So it's been a pleasure to have known Bob, a wonderful person. Pleasure to have known Margie. We're sorry to have lost him. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Nelson, formerly Jennifer Schultz in my grad school days. And I don't really remember the first time I met Dr. Skirvin, but I remember it wasn't long before I was in his lab at some point nearly every day. He wasn't my advisor, but he kind of took me under his wing, so to speak. And there was an immediate sense of feeling home in Skirvin's lab. It was just the place where you went to both celebrate and commiserate, depending on the day, and probably have some of Margaret's cheesecake or brownies while you were there. And I can relate to the guava jelly because that was mentioned earlier, because whoever happened to be there after his small fruits class usually received an impromptu lecture on whatever the day's topic was. And usually there was some fresh fruit or jam to taste as well on a cracker, as pointed out. I still remember tasting my first lychee fruit, courtesy of Dr. Skirvin, after he made a special trek to Jungle Gyms in Ohio. And I loved hearing about his latest garage sale treasures. And I remember being designated the, quote, responsible adult to accompany him to the surplus storeroom. To be the voice of reason when he spotted even more treasures there. And one of my favorite memories with Dr. Skirvin was when a few of us graduate students went with him out to the field to look at grapes. And I think it was in that old gold Toyota, because I don't think it had AC anymore at the point that we were in it. It was a really hot day and we had those down. And when we got out to the farm, he suddenly veered and we were bouncing along. And he pulled under some nearby trees. And he stopped so that the branches were all like in the car every way, and there were ripe cherries hanging off of them, and he said, grab one, eat it. Like demand. It wasn't like a request, it was like a command. And then he started sharing facts about cherries as we're all eating them. And then we got back, then he pulled the car back on the road and we stopped under the peaches. We had to get out of the car for that one, thankfully. And, same scenario. And eventually we got around to looking at the grapes. That was his reason for going out there. And what I remember most about that day is just the sheer joy of it. It's really ripe. If you've never had a ripened on the tree peach, you're missing out. Perfect. And all of us just laughing together and just enjoying our time together. And Dr. Skirvin took what would have been just an average routine observation of a field experiment, and he filled it with fun and joy. And he had a way of doing that with everything. I also have fond memories of slicing apples with Margie. Gold star for my apple slicing abilities. And for the apple tasting lab in Intro to Hort. And I remember being kind of in the background, hurriedly slicing while he was giving his lecture and just feeling the energy of that classroom. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced. And I never took his class because as a grad student, it didn't make sense, but I hung around enough to know. I just witnessed everyone laughing and joking and having a just fabulous time, but they were also genuinely learning. He wasn't just screwing around to make jokes. You were learning along the way, and that stuck with me. And I know he's known, we're all telling all these crazy stories, and he's known for all his joking around, but he also understood the darker side of grad school. He knew the good, the bad, and the ugly of grad school drama, and it can get deep. At one of my lowest points, when I was absolutely convinced that this was complete garbage and that I would never graduate, Dr. Skirvin showed me his thesis, the one that has the ad for cow manure pasted to the front. And he told me everyone feels the same way at some point. We had a great laugh, and I went back to writing. But in that moment, I felt seen and heard. I didn't feel so alone. And today, I joke with my own TAs who are writing their theses and ask, are you at the my thesis is total crap point yet? Because everyone hits that point. And more often than not, the TA that I'm talking to seems relieved when I say that. And I hope they feel half as good as I did when Dr. Skirvin told me the same thing. And I remember another random summer day that, once again, I was in Skirvin's lab. And he had a pile of his Intro to Horticulture class notes on the counter, and he must have been cleaning out, or maybe Margaret was forcing him to, which is probably more likely, to be honest. He asked if I had a copy of his class notes, and I said no. And so he handed me one. And then he hesitated and he said, wait, let me autograph it for you first. It'll be worth a lot someday. And so he handed it to me, and I read what he had written, and I brought it today. I read what he had written to me, and it says, for Jennifer Schultz, I hope you get to be a professor too. Bob Skirvin, 8/9/2002. And my immediate response was, thanks, but there's no way I'll ever be a professor. At that point, I wasn't convinced I would even graduate, let alone have a career. And when I finally did graduate, Dr. Skirvin was always my cheerleader. I remember how happy he was and the big hug I got when I got my first job as an extension educator. And he even came out to Decatur and gave his world-famous cranberry lecture to my master gardener group in Macon County. And another thing I remembered in writing this out was he was so fond of campus mail. And it was free. Right? Do you know he figured out he could send campus mail to Decatur, to the extension office in Decatur? I remember what he sent me. I think it was like some random article or something cool he saw. And I remember the secretary coming to me and be like, Jen, you've got campus mail? Like, I looked at the writing, I'm like, Dr. Skirvin. It was great. He proved the system works, right? And over the years, whenever I saw Dr. Skirvin, a lot of times we ran into each other at Costco. It was pretty typical. We were on the same cycle, I guess. He always greeted me with a big hug. And instantly my day was better. And fast forward a few years or 10, and I found myself back on campus, hired to teach Hort 105 vegetable gardening. And one day, while I was looking for information to include in a lecture, I noticed Dr. Skirvin's class notes were sitting on my bookshelf. And I paged through them and I came across the inscription he'd written nearly 20 years prior. And I don't know, maybe he wrote the same thing in everybody's book. But I like to think he saw something in me when I didn't. And that belief helped shape the teacher I've become. If I can pass on even a fraction of the joy, generosity, and belief Dr. Skirvin gave to me and so many others, then his legacy will definitely continue to grow. Thank you.
Your tone up today.
I have one tissue. When I'm finished with that, I'm done. My name is Chris Schmidt. I grew up with the Skirvins, Margie, Bob, Danny, Tim. For those of you that don't know, I actually bought Danny from Tim for a penny. So I still own that penny, actually. I didn't have a plan for what I was going to say, but to repeat what a lot of people have said, the hugs, the laughter. You guys, thank you so much for putting this on so we can come and share with you the ways that you and Bob have helped us, have coached us, have guided us. Will forever stay with us. I never made it to Jungle Gyms, unfortunately. It's not gone. I still can. I understand this. But when you brought that up, Tim, it reminded me of a grocery store trip with my now wife. I think we were in Virginia Beach, maybe. I don't know. We had to go get something for dinner. And Bob explained how to pick a ripe pineapple. And to him, that was the simplest thing, you know, but he took, as everyone has said, such joy in sharing these little bits of information that stick with you, that sometimes when you've had a tough week and you need fruit for tomorrow's breakfast and you're in the grocery store and you're wearing your COVID mask and you remember that one simple bit, it changes everything. You know, it certainly is the hugs at Costco. It certainly is those tough times that y'all and Bob have helped us come through. I think I'm probably in good company when I say I definitely wouldn't be here without you guys and without Bob. It is a pleasure to be back to talk more. It's a pleasure that doesn't go away. My wife and I were at brunch the other day, and we were waiting about an hour and 15 minutes for eggs. You know, it was a long time. And this couple next to us, Jim and Sally, okay, Jim and Sally. It was just like sitting next to you and Bob. His laugh was infectious. Every bit of information that I shared that I was kind of didn't want to impose upon him, he'd touch my arm and say, "No, that's a great story. That's a great story." And it made the entire day that much better. I remember when you guys would go on vacation, there was a horrible time when you went to New Zealand and Australia and I was alone for 6 months.
Sorry, selfish.
But when y'all came home, Bob had made that slideshow. And for those of you that don't know, it's this round thing you put pictures in and it spins through and it projects the image. And even at the time, I mean, I don't remember how old I was at that point. Older than you, sure. But I never got bored during the slideshow because it was like I was there. It was like y'all had taken that trip and brought back pieces to share with everyone. Always such a welcoming family, such a welcoming man to this day. And I think the last thing that I'll share, if I can read my notes, I only ever upset Bob once, which for me was huge because I met Danny when I was 5, you were 6. We met at the The never-ending Kool-Aid packets, the never-ending crappy pizza in the freezers. Yeah,
Was it crappy?
opinions. And you know, as a kid, especially a young boy, you could be rambunctious, maybe get out of hand. Margie's 2 rules were: if you bleed, don't bleed on the carpet, and go outside. You know, it's very simple. But I found a new rule once when we were playing a game, and things got out of hand. The ball went flying, and I broke a glass frame picture that was extremely important to Bob. Extremely important. He got quiet. His tears welled up, and I didn't know what to do. Like, I was a scared little kid, and Margie's like, "Chris, maybe you should go home right now." And I was like, "Oh boy, oh jeez, I did it." You know, that was the end of days for me, absolutely. But then I came back the next day, and Bob explained to me what had happened and how it made him sad. But that didn't mean that I wasn't welcome. It just means that, you know, we all have our own memories, and we all can treat each other with respect and make mistakes and come back tomorrow and tell those stories again. And those are the things that I'll remember. And I'm still looking to make more memories with you guys too. It's been fantastic being a part of your lives. Thank you.
He's yours.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Melkai. I'm also a former student. I'm not a grad student. I had Dr. Skirvin's class, maybe, was it Julie that spoke earlier? I think I was in that class, 2002. I was in the campus honors program, and Dr. Skirvin was really involved with that, with the apple labs and other horticultural delights. Chocolate tasting, yeah. And so I decided to take the intro to horticulture class through the campus honors program. And I did not take that class seriously. I lived in a party house off campus. There was like 8 of us. We'd have keggers all the time. And I would like not read and then write. You could take the quizzes and like write funny jokes on the back. If you could draw like a joke, you could get extra points. So that's how I passed that class. And I took the lab section with Margaret as well. And I'm a total plant nerd now, so something must have rubbed off on me. But I came to the University of Illinois from a single parent household as a first generation student. And I think I thought as a young person, oh man, I gotta be like a grown up and stuff. I gotta be all boring and whatever. And then I met someone like Dr. Skirvin. And he is one of the people, I have like 2 or 3 other professors I met that really showed me that I don't have to be a stuffy adult, right? That I'm allowed to be wild and wonderful and weird. And as long as I'm myself, you know, and it sounds like that rubbed off on everybody else too, you know, that's something that's why I'm here today. Dr. Skirvin was such a formative person for me in my life. And I just had him first semester, you know. I did receive one of those packages. I also am a veterinarian. I went to vet school in South Africa in 2007, 2008. And I didn't remember this, but I sent Margaret and Dr. Skirvin a hilarious postcard with, it sounds like cross-dressing lions or something like that. And I received this package with a half-used Far Side calendar and a Post-it note on it. And it was like, hey, Lindsay, I heard you're in South Africa. Take some cool pictures of fruits and vegetables for me. Have a good life, Skirvin. And I was like, who sent someone a half-used calendar? You know, yeah, I really appreciated that calendar because when you're in another country, sometimes the humor is different, and Far Side is like classic American, right? So that was really cool. But yeah, I just really want to come pay my respects. Also, I knew this was going to be a good funeral, you guys. So I really appreciate it. And it's just nice to hear more about Dr. Skirvin. I think in your poem, you were talking about keeping him inside you and carrying it forward. And I know that that's something, even though I just had a brief encounter with Dr. Skirvin, like he had a really big impact on me as an adult and a professional, so thank you. I also really appreciate that our to-do list for Dr. Skirvin's spirit is to go garage sailing, drink wine, and hug people. I am all over this for sure.
Hi, I'm Xian. I'm also one of the young people who was adopted into the Skirvin family. I was lucky enough to grow up with 2 loving homes and one loving home that also was very joyful all the time, and that was the Skirvins. I met Bob when I was 6 years old. We had just moved from North Carolina, and the first day of school, I met Tim, and we lived 2 blocks from each other. And I think the place from then on till I was 20 that I spent the most time awake was at the Skirvins. The second most time might have been walking back and forth along those 2 blocks. Joyful immersion and joyful anticipation. It was wonderful. I think a lot about how these days with popular culture, we talk a lot about lore. Like, you get into a hobby and you're passionate about its lore. And the Skirvins were the first family I met that had lore, and by becoming friends with Tim, I now suddenly learned about awesome people like Uncle Tim, who, I knew well about before I ever met in person. Learned about Monty Python, learned just tons of cultural things that really helped form me into who I am. I think it's come up a number of times, like a common theme, but I haven't really ever met anyone as unapologetically themselves as Bob. And as someone who spent a lot of my life being very apologetic for being myself and trying to make myself small, like the example that the 4 of you have set have really helped me many times. I think the very toughest times I had, part of why I made it at all was because I had a place I belonged, and a key to a place I belonged, which I also, though, like Chris talked about the time that Bob was mad. I learned a lot in terms of how to draw boundaries while still being an infinitely kind person. I don't know that I always execute that, but one thing that Andy Brown and I were reminiscing about was how I was living at the Skirvins' home for the most part for several years in my late teens, and by this point, Danny's massive friend group had subsumed me, and so we would be there at all hours for many days. And surprisingly, if you have a bunch of teenage folk in a house staying indefinitely, that can actually, there may be a limit to that somewhere, right? And so we talked about how Bob's way of letting us know that was to make blueberry pancakes. And I know, because he's so kind, this is why we called it this. Like, it certainly wasn't the sentiment at all, but we privately called them the get the fuck out blueberry pancakes. This was the signal that in all love in the world, it was time to clear out. And even with that, I think Chris can also attest that moment, but Bob and Margie would know where we were at in our lives. So there were moments where you would get the fuck out pancakes for everyone, and then Bob would say, "But you can stay." And it wasn't a like favorite thing. It was like who needed it, right? So these days, I'm proud of two things in my life: my amazing kid, Siobhan, and my teaching. And it's impossible to look at either and not see where Bob inspired a lot of it. Creating a place for young people where they feel welcome and free to be themselves. Using humor, not taking yourself that seriously. Especially, I teach middle school students, so if the teacher can get knocked down a little bit, it helps people navigate the hardest time of their life sometimes. And so again, a common theme, but I know like Bob being physically gone is a reality. And also there's the reality that the love that he shared with all of us is carrying on. Every time I've taught 3,000 students myself now, and every one of those kids have benefited. Bob brought to us every day. So, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Seth Reed, horticulture graduate of 2007, and my remarks are kind of similar to Lindsay and Ivan and Danny. I was the first one in my family to attend college or to apply to college and apply for horticulture, which I also didn't really know what that was, and I didn't even know how to spell it. But I worked at a garden center. My parents were like, "Oh, you got to go to college." I'm like, "But I'm not a very good student," and I'm like, I'm not sure, but I got into U of I for horticulture, which was kind of like crazy in that fact. And I attended Skirvin's class in the fall of 2002. Lindsay, you and I, we could have sat together and not even know. And taking that class, like after a few sessions, just kind of like confirmed for me that okay, horticulture is my thing. I like plants and I like propagating at home, but there's all these different things that I could do as a career in horticulture. And I think that, I know that Skirvin did that for literally hundreds of grads that had gone through the program, and it became just like bragging rights for the horticulture students that took the class. And then, to what Ivan and Danny said about just influencing so many people. And I think that, so I've been in horticulture since 2002. I've been at the same company for 18 years. And I think that the horticulture industry is so much better from Skirvin, because all of those thousands of people that took his class, he opened their eyes to horticulture, so they would see something and be like, oh, they would eat an apple with their family. Did you know there's 100 varieties of apples? And then they would go on to a story about how they took this class, when they were in school, and even though they were in engineering or something, they took this horticulture class. And so I just wonder how many people, around the world appreciate horticulture and do more gardening and buy more plants and are just enjoying green in their lives because of Skirvin. So I just wanted to thank the family for, letting everyone have him and in their lives. And I just wanted to share with everyone what he did for me. So thank you.
you on that. Where's Danny up? Oh, that's okay.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt. I am Bob's nephew. There's a lot of people here talking about how he gave them some advice in life that really benefited them, and I wanted to recall a couple of those instances in my life. The first one that popped out to me was, I think this was graduating high school, about to go to college, and I'm sitting around the dining table at my house where he's visiting, and he says, Matt, if you're ever in a social gathering where you don't know what to talk about, just talk about the fact, I want to apologize to the horticulturalist here that I'm going to probably get this slightly wrong, that regular potatoes are toxic and sweet potatoes are not toxic. And I'm 18 and I go, okay, sure, that sounds great. And I've used it maybe 20 times in my life, and son of a gun, that has never failed me to this day. The second is I'm graduating college, I'm going to grad school, pursuing a PhD, and I didn't have a ton of PhDs in my life, and he took me aside, and I think somebody mentioned the dark side of academia and some of the pitfalls, some of the dangers there, and he kind of warned me about some things, some things to look out for, make sure you have your PIs treating you right and things like that. And thinking back on it, there was a couple things he told me about, ask their grad students these kind of questions, and I did it, and I avoided some really terrible situations, and I'm going to be grateful for that for a long time. And just the last thing I wanted to mention is, I think that growing up, your parents are the ones that, they do the main shaping of you. They're like the staples in the meal. They give you that. I think aunts and uncles give you like the flavor notes, some fun things. That for me, for Bob, was his love of classical music. He would send me these, boxes with 17 different types of stamps on them that had some recording. It was that he converted from vinyl to an actual CD of some classical album he liked. And, I started listening to them, and man, there's some really great stuff in there. And I think I have a love of classical music thanks to Uncle Bob to this day. And I just want to be thankful for that. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Chirp on the later.
You're up, Lance.
So I'm Lance Camp. I have the honor of knowing all of these people, and particularly Bob, through two different reasons. One is I was roommates with Danny and next door neighbors to Tim at the dorm, but also right before I started school at U of I, they had us come in for an orientation, and during that orientation, they had us pick classes. And so I'm going through the class list, and I was an ag student, and so I'm going through the different classes that I need for my freshman year, and they had two current students sitting there that would help you out, and they were both like, you got to take this class. You have to take Intro to Horticulture. So I'm like, all right, that's sure, sounds good. And my parents don't farm, but both of my grandparents did. So I'm like, that doesn't sound bad. We have, giant garden plots at my both grandparents' house, and I like to help them with that. So I'm like, sure, let's take this Intro to Horticulture class. So fast forward about 2 months, and Danny and I met first day of at the dorm. And so we're doing what freshmen do when we get together and start getting to know each other. We're going through our class schedules, and I mentioned, I'm like, talking about mine, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm taking this horticulture class. I don't know, it might be kind of dumb, and it might be kind of boring. And Danny's like, did you look at who the professor was? And I looked at him like, oh, and he's like, but I'm in there with you. So we went to class every day together, every time we had class. It was fantastic. And then I ended up taking a small fruits and viticulture class. I was the only one who wasn't 21 in that class, but I was roommates with Danny at that time. And so about every other week, I'd go with Danny back to his parents' house to pick up his laundry on Sunday. And there would be 6 bottles sitting on the table and be like, hey, Lance, try this one. Okay, now try this one. And he'd just start pouring. So I got the chance to try all of those different wines that they were tasting. As Danny mentioned, I did recently get the pleasure of continuing the Apple Lab and doing it with my Cub Scout group. I'm in charge of 10 first graders, but we did it with the whole kindergartners through 5th grade group. We did an Apple Lab, and Red Delicious came in dead last. Yes, they're horrible. The yellow opal apples came in first. Huh?
Is that one one of the reasons, like, they said that it tastes like cardboard?
Yeah, they said it was awful. They kept coming in last place, like on like all but about 10%, it was last. And on those other 10%, it was next to last. But the biggest story that I have about Bob and the way that he influenced me and touched me the most was at I had met with my advisor every single semester that I was in college. I had made sure that I was checking off all of the boxes so I could graduate in 8 semesters, not take any extra time. I really wanted to get that done, and had checked everything off. My advisor signed off every single semester. My last semester, again, I'm going to be like the 5th person to tell a 2002 story here. But that was mine and Danny's last semester my last semester. Danny went on to do some more, but my last semester in undergrad, and it was past the last ad date for classes, and I got a letter like 2 days later from the university saying that I was 3 hours of a non-Western short. And I'm like, but no, I took this class. And so I talked to my advisor about it, and he's like, yeah, he called the registrars or whatever, and they said, yeah, it can only count as 2 different types of classes. He had it counting as 3. So we don't count the non-Western in that case. So I was 3 hours of non-Western credit short from graduating, and I was pretty upset about it. And Danny and I went to dinner a couple of nights later, and we were talking. And he goes, have you talked to my dad about that? I said, no. And he goes, you should talk to my dad about that. And so appointment to go see Dr. Skirvin a couple of days later, and I walk in, we sit down, I explain the situation and what's happened, and he goes, do you have your ID on you? And I hand it to him, and he picks up the phone, calls the registrar's office and says, hey, this is Dr. Skirvin. I'm here with Lance Camp. I'm registering him for a 3-hour independent study non-Western class. You laugh. But for those of you who took his class, you know the slideshows that they were talking about earlier. My job to get my 3 hours of credit was to go through all of those slideshows and make sure all of the pictures were the right way around and not upside down. Because he would regularly borrow them from one and put them in another to do a special lecture over here. And then when he put them back in, they weren't always right. So I went through, thousands upon thousands of pictures. I saw many, many pictures of Danny and Tim and Margie through those, and I got the pleasure to go through all of them and kind of relive those lectures that I'd had 4 years before. But he saved me, and when we got to the end of the class, he goes, well, what do you think you got? And I go, I don't know, like a B+. I think I got B+ work. And he's like, hey, yeah, he got an A, click. And then that was it. So I am eternally grateful for that. I am eternally grateful to your family. I have spent the night at your house. My wife, I will say one other thing. I brought my wife when we were dating over to their house. Danny was in town and Tim was in town, and we had dinner. And one of the rules I understood was that if Bob brought something into the house, something else had to go. And so that night, as we were leaving, he's like, hey, Lance, I got something for you. And I said, cool. And he brings over this old school bell, like big, one-room teacher school bell that they used to ring. And that has sat in my office on my shelf ever since. And I'm proud to display it and proud to have it there. And I let the kids get one ring on it each time they visit my office because it's very loud. So, exactly. So thank you all very much.
Bob would love this. This is great. These are stories he likes.
Hi, my name is Tom Maloney. Married to Margie, one of Margie's sisters. Yes, I've been garage sailing with Bob before. Sometimes a scary experience, but it's like all the rules of the road go out the window when Bob sees a garage sale sign. If you want to cross 3 lanes of traffic, if you don't hit anybody, it's fair. I've also gotten packages covered with stamps. And I go, how did the post office make sure I don't think they care.
They trust him.
But when my wife was younger, she had some financial issues and stuff, and Bob and Margie took her in and took care of her. And Bob would get assigned to me to take care of me when I drink too much at the family gatherings. But that's who Bob was. That's what Bob did. Bob cared. And that's the way I'll always remember him. He's
Hi, I'm Daniel Weber, and I think, and Margaret can correct me, but I think I was Bob's last PhD before he retired. And I have a lot of good memories, and it's hilarious hearing these things, especially about the surplus trip. I'm glad that was brought up because I think one year you guys went on a cruise. Margaret took a bunch of stuff down to surplus to get rid of it, and as soon as Bob came back, he was back at our lab. He walks in, oh boy, look what I got. So that was always fun. But I'm curious of those who took his class, how many of you have fond memories of cane toads? Yeah, there we go. How many of you have morphophallus bulbs? Anybody remember that? Stink plant. Okay. Okay, now you're remembering. And I'd just like to let the Skirvin family know that I still have some of them. I brought some for Margie to replace them. Because I bring them into my office and every time they flower. I just hated the building because the building smells like a dead rat for days afterwards. And it's in Bob's memory. One thing that I would like to mention, and it's been hammered on by everybody up here, is what a giving man he was. And I'm going to kind of tell a little story here about how giving he was. Tim is actually the reason I'm here. And Tim and I both worked at the Beckman Institute. I was manager of a lab that was a floor above him. And I was dating somebody at the time, and she had some apple trees outside of her apartment. And they produced like crazy. Never taken care of, but they produced really good fruit. One day I went by and they hired two dudes with a chainsaw to prune them, and these trees were going to die. I knew it. Okay, I'm a computer science guy, two degrees in computer science. And I posted on Good Old News a question. Anybody know how to save these trees? And Tim responded, as he always did on the computer, within minutes. And he said, you need to meet my dad. He's doing a grafting lab on apples. Give him a call or email him and see if he's willing to have you come down and he'll teach you. In fact, I think he told me there was guaranteed he was going to. He'll do it. So I called this random stranger up and he's like, sure, come on down, during the phone. So I went down there and did that. And he gave me the usual speech, which many of you have had. You ought to take my class, and here's why. And so I did. And at the end of the class, he says, you ought to take my other class. And here's why, the small fruit loop. I did. Oh, you ought to do a special project with Margaret. And so I did. And all this was because I could take these classes for free being an employee. I could never afford it on my own. And eventually he says, have you considered doing a PhD? And I said, no, not really, but I've always liked plants. And he said, I'm willing to take you on. And he gave of himself for a period of 14 years to me. I started out, first 7 years, I was taking classes because I needed to make up a bunch of biology stuff I'd never had as an engineer. He stuck with it, and then he stuck with me for another 7 years and got me out the door. Yeah. He kicked me out the door. That is Bob. That was his nature, was that so giving with his time, and you find out you like cane toads, he give you a cane toad wallet. But the other thing he gave me, kind of as an aside, was a wife, because by saving that apple tree, my wife Janet, who couldn't be here today, she and I got to know each other that much better, and we're still together. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary a couple years ago. And so, Bob, I don't know where you're at right now, but if you can hear me, thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Evan. Like a lot of people here, I'm also was a CHPer in undergrad, and I did have the opportunity to take the apple tasting lab and the chocolate tasting lab, learn about the Red Delicious propaganda conspiracy, and acquired my love of Honeycrisp. So thank you, Bob, for that. I also wanted to share a memory of being a house worker in the honors house, and one of our roles was to help the people doing the labs. And so there was a later occasion where I was working there and setting up, and we got to talking. I think my older brothers, Edwin and Elliot, went to uni high at the same time as you, maybe. I went to uni later, and so did our sister. So we talked about that some, and I remember at that time all the computers were running Windows 8 and it was annoying, and one of our jobs was to have the presenter log in well ahead of time, ahead of the lab start, so we could go through this annoying process. And it said like setting up apps, and Dr. Skirvin said, well, I don't want any apps. And I said, yeah, me neither, sorry, man. But I do remember at the end, just wrapping it up, and he extended his hand and said, Ramos, and shook his hand. And that's the kind of man that I remember, and I think all of us do. So thank you for having me, and best wishes to everybody.
My favorite mic.
You get that on, right? So I'm up here. I want to thank. I think it's Danny that is the reason that I'm up here today. Is that Danny had scheduled to go on a cruise with Margie and Bob to the Mediterranean, and he canceled on him. So that's your fault. And I think that was 2009, if I got the name.
2008.
2008. So we went in 2008. So I've known Bob since then, and Bob and Margie, and we have traveled together. And my experience with Bob is in the mornings, he would have a cup of coffee. He would know where the coffee bar was every morning, and the early one, because he was up early and he was down. Find a coffee. This one actually I brought because it says we ought to be opening a bottle of wine instead of the coffee. And so that I thought was very appropriate. The stories that I have are many and varied. We traveled from 2009 till 2020. And some of you guys saw the slideshow from going to New Zealand and Australia. I got to travel with Bob to New Zealand and Australia. So that was just a precious thing. We spent about 3 weeks in there with them, and couldn't be had that joy. I do want to share with you that Bob, my knowing Bob for that time, is that he is not happy at all with Bob's stuff. You know, all these people around here saying how great he was, and he never thought of himself that way. He always thought of himself as just Bob. And he was that guy. Some of the fun experience you guys have shared, just amazing to see. But we went to Italy, and we went to there was good and bad in this. We went to Tuscany one day, and we had several vineyards that we went to. And but Bob, of course, was always interested in the small fruits, and we had a driver. There were 6 of us in the car, and there was a driver, and Bob said English, but all the olives were being right there and being harvested. So he says, "Can you get us into a olive plant?" You know, so while we diverted, we had a little bit of time between a couple of the vineyards, and we went and we saw that and was just fascinated by it. He was telling us all about it, and it was just absolutely wonderful. Then we went to a couple of different vineyards and tasted a lot of wine. Now Margie is culpable in this last story about that. Is that we were at this one winery in Tuscany that the goal of the guy selling the wine was to get everybody drunk so they'd order a lot of wine.
Send it home.
Yeah, so we could send it home. And it was like, I think this was several years ago, and shipping was like $75 or something to send the cakes home. It was crazy. And so it wasn't very economical to do that. You could buy it at Benny's and do better, so it was one of those deals. And Margie was pouring her glasses of wine, because she didn't want to drink it all, into Bob's glass. So was Jane, I think, as well.
Oh, yeah.
I think there were two people, and Bob was drinking it. And at the end of the day, Bob lost his Tilly hat, and we didn't sing for 3 days. He didn't make it back to dinner for a few days. It was amazing. Bob, some of you guys are telling all these great stories about him, and it's wonderful. But he was a little bit on some of the trips. He was a little bit of the lost professor, if you will. He would get lost, and we would have to go find him. And he would go find, he would go find in the vineyard, he would go find the guy that takes care of the vines, and he'd talk to them, and be gone. We would find him for a while. Same thing happened in a couple of cities where we just didn't know where he was. Every afternoon, Larry Weber, they're best friends for 100 years. Professor Larry Weber as well. And he and Bob would go listen to classical music. Somebody mentioned that earlier. On the cruises, they always had quintets or quartets, and they had this one from Eastern Europe that was just absolutely wonderful. And they just play our requests until the end of the night. They were just wonderful. We always requested, at least at one time, the song from I'm sorry, I'm missing it. From De Niro in the dance, the tango, and they would play it marvelously with multiple parts. Yeah, Sentimental Woman. That dance scene, that music, it was just wonderful. And let me see, I got one more that I wanted to tell. That it just Bob was just Bob. Oh, the other story. So, every night on the cruises, you have to get your suitcase out and have it ready for the next morning. And so we get this panic call one morning after that from Margie. Bob doesn't have any pants. He took them off, put them in the suitcase, wrapped them up, put them in the suitcase, and shipped his suitcase off at midnight because they had to take the suitcase off. So he had no pants. It was a big problem. He had a nice shirt and everything. It was just, so fortunately I had a pair of shorts that fit him. I was about his size at the time. So it was great.
You saved the day?
Saved the day.
Did you have pairs or just one that you gave to him?
Well, no, I had to have my own pair. I had planned ahead, but yeah, I was okay. I had a pair of shorts to change into in case it got warm. So it was all good. But Bob was just that great guy who was wonderful to travel with. We've been to Egypt, Australia, New Zealand, the Middle East, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, you name it. We were there.
You had a chocolate tasting going through the Panama Canal.
We did, yeah. Absolutely wonderful. So I just want to say thank you for all your stories, and thank God that I met Bob in 2008.
Hi, my name is Charlie Maloney. I didn't know my Uncle Bob that much. We never really went to see him that often. But from the very few times that I did see him, I know that he was and from the stories you guys are telling today, he was a very kind and loving man. And I know we're all going to miss him.
My name is Eric Brooker, and I hate red delicious apples. I don't have much to say up here because I just took Bob's Intro to Hort class. But I did work at the University of Illinois, so I knew him that way. Danny, I think we were in the same Intro to Hort class, if you remember. But one thing I want to say about Bob is he was not just a good human being, he was a great human being. And I think we can all agree that we need more people like Bob in this world. Number two, and this is one of your rules, Bob gave credit where credit was due. So in that class, he always challenged us. I think the previous student mentioned comics at the end. Well, I thought it was going to be funny. And it was a question about who discovered the modern day strawberry. And there's a list of names. So I scratched out one of those names and put Dr. Bob Skirvin in there. And I thought maybe I'll get some extra credit for that or something. I think, what was it? DeChaney? Was that the guy that discovered? Maybe. Does anybody know in this room? Anyway, so fast forward about 8 years, and I'm volunteering at the fraternity I was in when I was on campus. And one of the kids goes, "Hey, you know your name is on the exam and the Intro to Hort exam?" So Dr. Skirvin gave me credit for he took his name out of there and put my name in there. So for like 8 years, you know. So Eric Brook, maybe some of you younger students remember this. So he gave me credit, maybe famous for that a little bit of time. And the last thing I want to mention is I didn't know this, but I have some Dr. Skirvin tendencies. So I love hugs. I'm a hugger. And I love classic music. And I love finding a good deal. While I don't go to garage sales, I like to go thrifting a little bit. I told Danny this. I got this little blazer at Goodwill for like nothing. And I think Dr. Skirvin would have really appreciated that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth. I first met Bob in the early 90s because I was in the lab next door working on my master's and PhD. So I had a lot of interaction with the Skirvin lab over the years. But when I graduated, I went on to work with Extension. And so Bob would bring his lab to my house because I was a cheap hotel for meetings because for the horseradish growers. So Margaret always got the bed and the rest of the guys got the floor or maybe a couch or something like that. But I thought I would share some of the interactions. You know, it's kind of mentioned that Bob really never forgot anybody and he kind of kept track of them. And I would receive letters from Bob in my office and it would have all these little clippings that he found interesting that he thought I would find interesting too. But one of the I found really interesting on one day he sent 22. I posted it on Facebook. Thank you, Margie, for sharing Facebook because we were able to communicate with Bob through Margie on Facebook. But I'll read what I wrote. I said, I got a letter from my friend Bob today, and it will bring a smile on my face for a long time. It still does when I kept the letter. But in addition to appreciating what he sent me, I noticed he used a postage page envelope that was older than me. And I looked it up because I was curious enough. I looked it up and the postage went up to 4 cents on August 1st, 1958. Postage page envelope was from 1958. And I think the 14-cent stamp is from 1985 and the 41-cent stamp is from 2007. And I wrote, the mind just boggles at the level of organization that was needed to put these pieces to use after so many years. And I said, Margie Skirvin, please tell Bob that he made my day. Well, you did. And Bob replied back through Margie, and he says the 3-cent envelope is from the 40s. I'm glad you enjoyed the envelope. I had lots of fun using up old stamps. And I know how many people have actually received one of his ridiculous boxes with 10,000 stamps on it. Look at all the hands that are up. That would just make my day when I would get something from him. Bob went on to say, I have accumulated since I was 10 years old. So he managed to keep all those stamps, and it was just fascinating that he kept. And he just went on to say it was nice to hear from me. So Margie, thank you. Thank you for giving me this space to share a funny story about Bob, because he was wonderful, as all of us know. So thank you.
We got one more, Lauren? Okay.
Sorry, am I the last one?
I don't know. Unless Rob, do you want to say something, bud?
Palate cleanser?
My name is Robert Skirvin.
Yeah.
Also a great Robert Skirvin.
Yes. My name is Lauren. I'm one of Bob's nieces. And I'll say, I don't know how we could have possibly had time to teach all of you guys, because that was not the side of Bob that I saw growing up. In my mind, he was, when I was around Bob, it was always probably like vacation Bob, because he was off and spending time with us. So I never got to have all the experiences of taking his class, but I certainly got to learn all of his lessons. And I think we've all acknowledged today that the price for the verbal lessons was the physical shame of walking a package across your college campus with all the stamps on it. And all you want to do a freshman year of college is be cool around all your new friends. And unfortunately, as they all crowd around it and you open it and they're hoping it's something really awesome, and it's just a bunch of like broken CDs and like My Little Ponies that were for somebody probably like 15 years younger. I think, two things I want to make sure, like the side of Bob that I saw was he seemed to travel a ton, and I think kind of opened up my mind to like, oh wow, the world's, you can make it a small place if you want it to be. And also, I think he was really ashamed of me that I didn't start drinking coffee until maybe college. That man could hold more coffee than anyone I have ever seen in my entire life. And he told me it was okay if I drink coffee all day long, and nobody should judge the number of cups of coffee that I have in my life. And so when somebody's, looking at me and on my third trip to get a cup of coffee for the day or something, I'm like, well, Bob would have said it was fine.
Yep.
And then, I think the last thing I'll say is I think Bob, and something that while I never took his class, he always left conversations with, I love you and I'm proud of you. And I bet that is something that I can share with all the people who did take his class and were his students. And so that's, I don't know, kind of the last thing that I think of is he always says, I love you and I'm proud of you. So thanks.
Robert's helping.
Hi.
So we're at least a half hour over, and I'm not surprised.
Okay.
It's fine.
We're okay.
Yeah. He loved y'all. He's proud of y'all. And as I said before, we're just go tell people this stuff. Go keep spreading his story, because I'm going to be doing it forever. I'm not. The issue for me is that I don't have more stories to tell him, or I have them and I can't do it. And I have survived the last few months with it. I have not gotten used to it, and maybe this will make it a little bit more real. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you, everybody, for being friends.
Go in.
I get to do the plugging part. Commercial. We have set up a scholarship fund. I don't have a QR code. I don't have a URL, but on the Facebook page, there is a way to donate money specifically for a scholarship fund for ag students to travel. It is not called the Skirvin Clock Fund because this doesn't have anything to do with clocks. It is not called the Red Delicious Taste Like Cardboard Fund because mom is no fun. But fundamentally, we do want to get do this, and we're tossing money in the pot for it.
Rebecca made that lovely.
Oh yeah, there's a slideshow that was playing and probably will play again for a bit afterwards of pictures of him over the ages, starting from when he was a little scrawny kid up to when I was able to hug him in the hospital.
I'm in it wearing a mustache.
Yes.
Baby doll.
Yeah, there were a lot of mustaches. Please enjoy. I'll be putting this stuff online. I will be getting the video online. I'll be trying to make sure that everything here is shared. We do encourage you to tell more stories if you have things to write. If you want to mail me stuff, if you want to post to the post we're going to make with more comments, if you want to go to the Facebook post, I want the stories because this is what I'm going to have of him. So thank you.
And we're here for a while longer if people want to visit before they go on.
Yeah.